welcome. And I hope everyone has a good evening. You might wonder, why do I speak English on this German channel? Well, we have a special guest today, and I think I have him right here with me. Yes, it works, so let's switch the scenes and welcome Ruben. Hey.
Thanks, Jens. Talking about German. If you want, I take your challenge and speak German. But since I'm streaming as well to my YouTube channel, I think my audience will, just quit rather soon if I did so.
Yeah, and you made a heart attack for me because you were going like this, but I had no sound, and I was like, what's broken? What is broken?
Wait, there was no sound?
No, there was sound. Everything is good. You just did not make a sound. Okay,
no,
well,
I did.
as I think everything is all right, and you have sound. People would already be complaining if not. But as you guys heard, you can also follow the program on the Gamedev Guru YouTube channel. If you have a link for me, I will post it in the chat here.
I guess. Yes, let me grab the link. Sorry, I'm pretty much a noob when it comes to YouTube and all of these channels that is not blogging.
Well, you're here for your expertise in game dev, so...
Yeah, exactly. Right?
And normally you are your special area is performance. Is that right?
Yep. That is always the task that I was assigned to do. And then at some point, after a lot of years, I started actually liking it, right? So that's how things work usually, right, in life.
For the last few game dev streams here, we were trying to tickle out a little bit more performance of our game Beam. And maybe we will go hands-on and look at the project, and you tell us what we've been doing wrong all the time. And maybe some tips for beginners, or when you set up a project or a scene, what you can pay attention to from the beginning to make it better.
It sounds good. It would be a bit mean of me to tell you have done this and this and this wrong.
I'm used to it. I'm used to it.
You want me to be tough and rough with you, Jens?
Okay, for the chat, this is the link for your YouTube live stream, and of course you can follow there and subscribe to his YouTube. I think the last nice thing you did was what was it about texture compressing? I saw articles written by you.
Yeah, I think I talked about. I mean, right now the last 1 or 2 posts are about more architecture and such, like patterns.
Oh, very cool.
I started a series on keys patterns. Keys meaning keep it simple, stupid. Or the other variation that I like more is called keep it simple, stupid. So yeah, I started this kind of series on architecture. But yeah, I did. After that one, before exactly these 2 posts, the last one was about texture compression on the GPU side, of course, which, it is quite different from the ones that we are used to, right? In the CPU side, it is not so much like PNG or, JPGs and such. Quite different.
Yeah, but also quite a niche topic to go into, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't remember the last time I spoke with my mother about texture compression.
Just a sec, I will have to read.
Oh man, I should really set up my live stream setup a bit better, right? Like, there's not even a background. Jesus.
Okay, then let's have a look. I asked the Beam community what are the most heavy levels that we have that are still quite underperforming. And we found out it is this one, 1.4. And from the 3, that is the easiest. Quite big, but not too big, I would say. Let's have a look at the other candidate on the list, which is 1.6. So that is the 6th level in the game, and we get reports about low frame rate, mostly stutter or low frame rate at certain points of the level.
I'm curious actually about this and your personal experience. How does performance influence the ratings that you get usually? Can you actually measure that? I mean, you get people like doing a table flip and leaving you with a not recommended just because of this? I know it's a bit of a meta question, but you know.
No, I think that is quite important, and it's not that people would buy the game for the performance, but they would leave the game because of bad performance. It's not like you think, oh, I heard of this game, it has the best performance ever, I need to play this. But it's one of those topics when you mess it up, people will pay attention to this. Hey, Gamedev mechanic, hello. We are also English today. So you have to bear with us, and especially with my broken English.
Better than with my broken German, I assume. But what I found interesting is that many players, if you say that your game only supports like 30 FPS, I don't know, for example, the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, they really get upset, right? So if you don't meet the usual 60 FPS minimum, many players will say, I'm out of this game.
Yes.
So performance is not a selling point, but sometimes you need to really meet these minimum requirements, right? Otherwise, you're gonna upset the community. I think I saw that with Batman, one of the games. I'm not a fan of Batman, but I was just checking the reviews, and many people were saying, "What? 30 FPS? This is crap." And back to Minecraft or something.
Yeah, and the curious thing about the FPS is, for me, always people want this high frame rates, like 100 FPS or something, but mostly use a monitor that only give like 60 hertz, so they won't see that anyway. It's just I can understand it on some esport game, you know, where your inputs count. Yeah, where the inputs count, it's okay. But for your casual game, more than 60, you really don't need it.
Yeah, actually, not sure about it, right? Because when I tried my latest monitor, so basically I bought a monitor, you know, I went all in, of course. It was not necessary, so I guess that I did it just for fun. I bought a 240 hertz monitor, and you know, I told myself it's just because of work, right? I work on performance, so some clients might have requirements to run the game at 240 FPS, so I need to have hardware for this, but it was bullshit, right? It was actually just because I felt like, and most of the time I just stick, you know, I limit my frame rate to 120 FPS because above that number, I don't see any difference. The only difference that I see is in the power consumption, the heat and the noise that my computer does, right?
Yeah, right.
60, I noticed myself the difference, especially like in sports. Not that I do, you know, sports or something, but in first-person shooters, like if you're playing Half-Life or something, for me there it makes a big difference. Maybe it's just me.
It's for some gamers, it's a little bit like horsepowers for car nerds, you know. You just need the 500 horsepower car or something. I don't know anything about cars. But yeah,
I know about cars, but it is like, you know, buying a super expensive car and then driving it in Spain. I'm from Spain, for example. So yeah, you can get 200 kilometers per hour within, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds. Okay, let's say 4 seconds. But then what do you do after that? It's like nothing, right? You and I are lucky that we are living in Germany, depending on how you see it, if you're lucky or not. And here there are no limits yet.
Fun fact, our art director, our lead artist also came from Spain. Or is coming, he's still alive, so he's from Spain.
I hope he is.
Well, coming back to the game, actually, that is one of the problem levels. And alone from the layout of the level, you can see that we will have problems with culling, because at many points I will have a lot of geometry behind the walls still in the frustum of the camera. So that may be a problem. But I will not take too much ahead from what you want to say about it. And let's have a look
steal my work.
At the last level in question, which is 1.10. That is the last level of the first chapter. And it takes quite some time to load. And here we are. And this is a big one. So, from the brief glimpses you have thrown onto the levels, which one do you want to have a closer look?
Let's say this one.
Let's say this loaded. One. Okay. So how do you pretend I'm a client and I tell you I want this level to be played at 60 FPS at all times?
The first thing I will tell you is, where's my money? The second thing would be, okay, let's have a look at the profiler.
Let's have a look at the profiler. Sure.
But yeah, actually, before the profiler, I would first have a look at the level itself and really wonder how the player would actually go through this level, right? Because right now we are seeing it from the outside. Yeah. Which reminds me of the old good days with Half-Life, when you cheated and then you activated the fly mode. Not sure if you ever did it, that you could see all the level from outside. That was pretty cool. But yeah, important it is to see from which perspective we would be rendering the game. So
I guess that is a good impression on the viewpoint of the camera. This is the level start. And then we would go through this door, get to know a new light beam here. We can actually observe it in the background to have a tip on how it works. Then go here, use what we learned to get this barrel over on this plate to open the door. Go through this corridor with some tricks. I guess it is more like this here. We have these points in the level. Those, we put a custom icon there. On those points you can change the camera. So normally we would look like this. And here we have this icon, so we would switch like this. Those helping lines show us the direction in which the camera is looking on those points. When you see this is a spline. So the camera is looking that direction. It will then follow the spline to the endpoint, which is here. Yeah.
Interesting. Pretty good lighting, I have to say. Huh?
Thank you.
I didn't remember it to be that cool, actually. Did you do some extra work on this?
No. This is basically like it was from the... quite the contrary. I deleted a lot of lights because of performance. I deleted a lot of point lights that were really not necessary, or the effect was so that only I would see it, you know? That's...
Yeah, because you were looking exactly at those pixels, right?
I will continue, just show the level. We would here go, this top side would open, because if we would look like this, we still see this. And when we enter, we will touch a trigger and it will open. So we see the ball again. Yeah, we go up here, go up down here, come into this room. I think we have a little bit more camera space now. Yeah, go here, solve this puzzle, go through here. Can maybe get a collectible if we manage to get up here, which is quite tricky. Then we come in this big hangar type of thing and have to solve all puzzles here.
Okay.
skip this puzzle. We have the speedrunner in the chat, and they just skip everything, so that does not count.
But I think this is already a good idea because basically, even if the level is, I don't know, 1 hour long, if by seeing the first 10 minutes we can say this is how it looks in
Yeah.
general, this is the pattern that we follow, that is usually a good explanation already. So yeah, that's the first step that I do with all my clients in terms of optimization, is to get an idea on the patterns, right, of rendering. You know, I don't want to go through the entire level because then the session would be over. But
Yeah.
I want to see something representative, which is what you showed me. I assume.
Maybe I can, because last time we talked a lot about occlusion culling, and last time you were with us, I also showed you how we do it, but I will repeat it now for the chat. We do occlusion culling by hiding actually our occlusion volumes. They are here. Those are our occluders, and their static settings is set to occluder, where the rest of the level is being occludee. And with this, we really bar off things we want to occlude. Yeah. And then we do the occlusion baking, and after baking, we will hide the occlusion volumes again. Yes.
I think there are some comments on the chat. I think there's a question. On your chat, of course.
On my chat. The trigger deactivates the game objects. So not the render component, but the whole game object. Which is also why we cannot set those pipes to static. At least the front cover, we cannot set it to static because we need to disable it. We cannot disable something that is static. Same goes, the question mark is for the static setting, or? The same goes, of course, for all moving parts. Moving parts also cannot be static, like doors or elevators, platforms.
I have to wonder though why you cannot disable static objects, because Unity, even with static patching, they can internally stop rendering parts of the scene, right? Even if they are static, right? So I think that would be actually a pretty good thing to be able to do. Not sure if it's possible, but I can imagine that it can be quite useful thing to do.
That would be quite useful. To answer the question with the collision is not on those objects, and we have not the standard physics running. We have our own physics that will lock the ball on the current playing plane. So it cannot roll out of the front of the pipe. So it's just enough to have collision down and up here. So basically we just need a line. We don't need colliders for that. He got it. That's nice. Sometimes it takes a while to wrap my head around it too. Oh, by the way, those objects here, the green, that is custom geometry for collision. That is cheaper than the collision on a bent pipe. So we take this as collision information. And this material has a setting on it that when in play mode, it will deactivate the renderer, so we don't see. It's just for level building that we still see those. And we can also disable it in our layer view by disabling our collision layer. Then they would also be gone if you want to make a nice screenshot or something. So, well, you can write all C# code, so you're not bound to use the rigid body from Unity. You can do your own stuff. And actually Unity is doing that because the normal rigid body stuff is physics, and the new physics stuff that they introduced in the package manager is actually Havoc. So they have two different libraries for physics.
And in that regard, I think this year still, no, or at the end of last year, I implemented like car mechanics, like the what's called like the springs and such. I modeled the physics of a car just by using a bit of raycasting. That's all. That we didn't use the physics system of Unity at all, and not even use colliders for the car for that regard. So it was looking pretty good. It was behaving quite well. The trick in that case was to use raycasting on each of the wheels going downwards, and then depending on the distance to the surface, you could just apply some mathematical formulas to simulate, like the spring behavior itself, and you do this individually, and then at some point, you have a working car, right? That was actually pretty cool, and I liked it more because you have a lot of control. Otherwise, if you do this with the usual physics, to get the behavior that you want, you have to tweak a lot of settings, and it doesn't scale very well in terms of design, right? In terms of performance and such, of course it does. Physics is quite optimized, especially since they upgraded the version. I think they upgraded to version 4.
But sometimes you're just right. You need the form of control you have by implementing your own, and maybe it's even streamlined for what you do. Like the example with the car, you don't need all this extra stuff that is in physics.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also fun.
Well, for us in our team, Sebastian is the physics guy. He wrote for his thesis, university. He wrote his own rigid body physics to simulate braking behaviors of sticks and stuff.
Like a carrot, like
yes. So yeah. How would different materials break, basically?
Talking about carrots, I had a colleague of mine who was working in audio, right, making audio effects, and I don't know why it happened, but I was asking him, how do they actually make the sound of when you break someone's neck, because we were working on a kind of a first-person shooter, right? And he told me it's actually pretty easy. You just have to break a carrot. I was like, oh wow, that was it. I was wondering, maybe there is a lot of mystery behind the sound or physics of sound regarding breaking someone's neck, but no, it was just a carrot. I was like, wow, that's pragmatic.
Yeah, Foley guys are awesome always, what they are doing. But I try to circle back to our problem here. I will just hit play now to give you an impression how it runs. Do you want to see the stat window?
Sure. That's always a nice thing to see.
I think, well, let's see. But I think I have to move your camera for the stat window. But it takes a while to press play anyway, so just bear with me.
Which version of Unity are you using?
This is running 19? On 2019 LTS, yes. Or do you need the specific version, the specific LTS version? That is 0.4 for LTS and 28 F1.
You have any plans to upgrade, or not for this game, right? Not
this game will stay on 2019. We will maybe update to the latest LTS, but we will not change versions.
Quite a lot of overhead, I have to say, depending on how much programming you did.
Yes, it's not only this, it's also the materials and shader. We are not quite sure everything will work. We have special light handling. We have a lot of custom stuff. So I have your camera is exactly over that. So let's move it a little bit.
I would be happy to be there on the right.
I just put you here.
Bottom right.
Bottom. Yeah, let's put you here. Over here.
Covering your logo. Yes.
That's okay.
That's fine.
And then I just have to change that picture and put it there. Okay. So now we have the stats window clearly visible, and we have like 45, 58, 51, 30 FPS here in this section. 40, still 40.
Makes quite a few jumps, huh, in the frame rate.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
it's normal, I guess. On the editor, might be,
Yeah, there's
That's
quite a
sensitive.
lot of editor overhead in it. That's true. Well, but here we see it go down to 30. Right now, our goal was in the last weeks when we did this to have 40 FPS minimum in the editor at all points. Oh, it goes down. Now I am up to 10, 14, 6, 5. Something is happening. Clearly something is happening.
Something that I notice on the editor, which is a bit of a deal breaker sometimes, is the premise that when you have the game tab, both the game tab and the scene view open, like in both at the same time, because there, in that case, Unity has to render twice.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I don't think it's your case, but
Nope.
if that could be someone else's case, right? And the best is just to have the game tab open and just have the scene view hidden.
So we managed to put the barrel onto that. Need to traverse the... Yeah, I have to concentrate while playing, so I cannot talk anymore. So this level is all about this purple beam, because that is a gravity beam. So where the fog touches the beam, gravity, it will pull objects and the player.
So here, where I would ask my client is to go to an area where we have like a low frame rate. If we are talking about optimization of frame rate.
I think we just passed it, because here I'm now suddenly at 80 average.
Yeah.
So the first section was quite heavy, and here I'm still seeing the first section, because that is behind that wall now, and we have 50, and I turn the camera and we have wait a little bit for stabilizing, but it's 80 now. Turn again, and we're going back down, so something is happening. There we see the effect, by the way. So if we are here, it's still there. And when we enter, it's not there. Yeah, I think that's enough. Oh, 90, 97 now in this section, which is clearly better. Did it. Okay, I think that's enough. Or do you want me to activate the profiler right in here?
I would normally go to an area where we have the strongest, or rather the worst bottleneck, right?
Okay,
so if you had
see.
a place where we had like 40 FPS, then I would start by going there.
Yeah, I will just see if I can find a verse section. 70, because I think there is one coming up. 84, this is all fine. And here still fine. Here, I guess. 45.
Yeah, that's actually a good place. I would just stop there, honestly.
Okay.
And then, so if the gameplay is not stable, but it is right now, meaning like the ball would be bouncing all the time or something, then I will pause the editor. But it's not the case right now. We have a good view here.
Yeah, because I have the cheat active, yeah.
Yeah, so here I would just check the stats window to start, right? And then see if some of these numbers, are a bit, can actually tell some story. Like, for example, I would check the number of patches,
Yeah.
which is kind of the number of objects that you have in the scene that we need to draw individually, right? I would also check the triangle count, the vertices, and the number of set passes, right? So I guess it always depends on your target platform and within each platform on your target hardware, right? But 800K vertices is not much for a normal GPU. I think, for example, maybe even a 960 GTX should be able to pull that off in terms of triangle and vertex count. That should be fine. I think, PC can usually handle at least a couple of million, right? Of course, if we are talking about mobile, maybe this number can drop
Well,
really quickly to 100K.
Yeah, this game is definitely not for mobile.
So in that regard, the numbers that I see look okay. Maybe I will focus on reducing the patches. But, I would already start suspecting about spending too much time on the GPU, right? Because I see all these kind of effects and this kind of fumes, like foggy effects.
Yeah.
That tends to add a lot of layers of rendering, right? Which we tend to call like overdraw, because basically you are adding a lot of transparency. And the problem with that is that you need to draw the whole scene.
Yeah, if you give me a moment, I will find that in the scene view and activate overdraw for the people to see. Because I think here we see the camera, so basically this is what we see, roughly. Let's activate light and effects. And then here on the, can you see that? No, you cannot. Well, basically in the top left corner, you will see it when I press it. There is normally a drop down that is labeled shaded. And if you drop that out, you have a lot of options to what you want to do in your scene render. And we will take on miscellaneous, we will take the overdraw. And then we see something like this.
If you had an HDR monitor, you would probably be blinded by this. Meaning it is super bright. That means that there is potentially a lot of overdraw.
Yeah.
I don't like too much the overdraw view in Unity because it's not accurate at all. It doesn't take into consideration the type of shaders that you are using for the overdraw. It doesn't take into account depth testing. It misses a lot of these things. But it's a good start. And bright means in this case that indeed you are drawing way too many things on top of each other, right?
Exactly.
So the problem with the transparency in this case would be that you have to draw or render the scene, like all the background, which is opaque. And once you are done rendering that, you also have to render the semi-transparent effect, yeah, exactly like that kind of fog. And so basically you are rendering twice, right? You cannot say I just render one.
2 times for sure here. We have a lot of particle systems here, and I'm just seeing if I can show the particle. Sometimes they Unity does not show the icon for the shuriken always. No, I cannot find it right now. Where's the particle? Built-in components. Let's see. Particle system, it's here, yeah.
Search thing here.
Yeah, I wanted to see the icons, but as I said, sometimes Unity will not show those. Anyway, I can tell you, we have a big particle effect that is on top of the acid lake that does this little clouds here. That is scaled to the size of the acid lake. Also, we have little accents that we set with additional particle systems, like this smoke here. We have another smoke right there. And I think, yeah, we have another smoke back there. You can just see the particles behave a little bit differently to the rest of the particle effects that we see. We also have a lot of particles in our light beams. They get generated automatically. We have particles that move along the spline for the effect. We have a can I see a light beam that hits something? Yeah, we have a particle system that will do a little sparks here when the light comes. And also we have this little glowing effect here. So this all, of course, adds up. Okay, I just wanted to elaborate on what you were talking about so people can see it.
Yeah, sort of particles.
Yep.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that you need to draw all of these things, but then not only drawing, you have also to merge the result of drawing that thing, right? Because like when you put like a glass in between, like if you have glasses, right, and they're dirty, right, you put them on, and it is not only drawing the thing that's behind your glasses, it's also drawing the glasses, and then adding some dirt on top of what you are seeing. So it's drawing plus merging. That is why this type of overdraw tends to be not so nice on the GPU side, right? It is a big problem on mobile. On desktop, it is okay, but of course, everything has its limits, and it might be one of the first things that I would suspect of right when I see this scene. I just see a lot of drawing there, a lot of overdraw, and I will probably check that part first.
Okay. Yeah, but what can you really do when your artist tells you, yeah, but I need all those particle effects?
So the first thing you would need to do is to first make sure that we know where the bottleneck is coming from. That's always the first step. And the second step is how to talk pacifically with art to come up with a solution, right? The first step is, again, to check that is actually the bottleneck. And the easiest thing you can do is to disable these particle effects from the scene hierarchy and see how the frame rate changes. So it might be actually a simple test, right?
Yeah, let's try to find them. Oh, that was a lucky. So this is what I selected now, are all the VFX in this part. So let's just disable this object. And I don't really see a big change in the FPS. We can activate that again. No, there's not really a big change.
All right.
40,
So
46,
always...
48, 41, 40. If I disable, I'm still 46, 47, maybe 50.
Yeah, it has a slight improvement, but it's not huge, right? So what we could try doing here, I see still though some particles, I have to say.
You're right. What we see there is still the acid lake. So let's try to select this too. So yeah, let's disable both of those. Oh, he's still in the 40s. Oh,
yeah,
50, 45, 44, 45.
Looks a bit more stable to me on the upper side, but yeah, it might be just my imagination, right? So what I would do is to try to find out what is the source of the bottleneck before I try to talk about solutions, right? And, I would just keep experimenting, because what you will see is that often enough, you will just disable a few objects and then suddenly realize that the bottleneck might have been in one of these objects, right? And then once you realize which objects are causing this, then you can start asking questions like, why could this be a problem? And then what to do about that, right?
What we also can do is look for comparison again at the overdraw. And we still see, like, it looks to me like the whole room behind this room is also drawn.
Yeah, I have to say it's much less bright than before. It was like totally white before.
Yeah, because we had here, let's try to add the... there we go, that is the fog for the acid. And this is the other fog systems. And there we go. Yeah. Of course, especially here, they all overlap, yeah.
Oh man, it's super bright. I'm gonna have some sunburns by looking at this. So if it's not the particles, I mean, it's still it can be that they are the problem comes from the particles. I would then have a look at the other things that we have in the scene. Now we have a lot of draw calls, right?
Yeah.
If you can show
Draw calls. Yeah.
It might be that it's coming from the CPU because drawing draw calls or preparing draw calls is very expensive, right? You have to prepare the material formats and be swapping between GPU programs and do all of this kind of stuff that takes a lot of time. So it might be the reason for that. But we can also have a look at the profiler. I think the shortcut is like Control-7.
You're right. Control-7.
And then just pause the profiler for a bit. Like the record button there on the left. It's like the red thing. Or that also works. And then I will have a look here, right? So we see one first section where we are spending a lot of... Oh, can you zoom in on the first section, like on the left?
Ah, this one?
Because on the left. No, on the left. The orange part, yeah. Orange means physics, usually. And I'm seeing a lot of orange, more than I would usually see on any other project. So what I suspect this might be is that some of your scripts might be changing some transforms or doing some changes on the scene, and Unity decides it is time to propagate these changes over to PhysX. And in this regard, there will be something that I would like to check on your project.
Yeah.
Which is, can you show me the project settings, the physics part?
Sure. Project settings and physics.
Okay, so here there is an important option that I would like you to test turning off. It's like in the first third of the screen that is called autosync transforms. I will try to turn that off and see if it makes an impact on the profiler. Yeah, exactly. I will tell you about this flag in a second. I just want to see if there's any change.
That was the profiler. Anyway, let's run again. Also try to see the statistics.
Okay, let's have a look at some frames in the profiler. Oh yeah, I think let's have a look at the whole thing, because I think the orange parts disappeared. Yeah, I think some of them disappeared, right?
Some of them disappeared for sure, yeah.
So that's good news, right? I would, test whether that makes sense for your game. Usually it does. So like I was saying, when you do some changes on your scene through scripting, what happens is that Unity, by default, at least back then, right, in older versions, what they did is to tell PhysX, hey, I did the change. You need to update the internal state of PhysX. And that was, very expensive for some cases, maybe like yours. However, they introduced this option where they limit this update of the synchronization of the transforms to maximum once per frame. I think it happens like at the beginning of the frame. And that might be, what did improve, in this case, the results of the profiler. I cannot tell about the frame rate right now. I can only speak about the profiler results, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think it looks much better because we had a lot of orange things beneath the scripts, which is the blue things on the left. Mm-hmm. And I think that part is gone.
That is, we can compare by toggling it back on and have a compare. That was auto sync transforms.
Yeah.
Let's toggle this back on and let it run again. just for a bit. And take a frame here.
Oh yeah, I think it definitely makes a difference.
There we go.
Find the one differences game.
Yeah, so turning it back off and let the profiler run. And pause again and pick a frame. And yeah, we see less of them.
So that's a quick win. Still, I would check that nothing breaks because, you know, you never know. But it should be a relatively safe change.
Let's see if we can actually...
Look at the frame rate, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
So we can still roll the barrel. Let's try to find some light beams and see if that still works. But for that, we will just quickly change the scene. Because we have a scene prepared where we test all physics of the game. The beam test scene. There we go. We did change nothing on the scene, so we don't need to save that. So, oh yeah, it's actually over there. So what this scene is, it has everything. It has our lake, it has the swimming barrels, it has the gravity beams, and all kinds of beams actually. So everything we want to test. Here's a plane change. That is what we call the camera stuff. And we can just hit play on this and test all beams if they still work. And this is quite handy if you follow your games, guys, because that even the door effect for the anomaly effect from the cutscene. To have
reminds
all
me of the eye of Mordor. Towards Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, this one still works. To have all your game mechanic in one scene to test it better. So the sticky beam still works. The bouncy beam still works. Let's see if we can also bounce up. Yep. It works. In general, jumping you want to test. Yeah, it still works. Quite elaborate jump code, by the way. Let's see how the gravity beam also works. This box, yeah, still works. Yes, the swimming script works. It's just the setting is that they are hovering inside the fluid. But yeah, so far... Oh, we did not check the basic beam. Which is... Oh, there's another type. Is this? Yeah, it works. And this one is actually electric. And it also works. So let's see. We can swap here. Yeah. That works. That also works. Perfect. So.
There you have it, gents. You have have saved about maybe half a millisecond just with one option.
With one click, this one. And it toggled it back on, I think, because of leaving play mode. Or
anyway, this is a test. This is something that we'll test more carefully.
Yeah.
Maybe in a build. And not now, of course.
Of course not now. But for this, I actually need to make a note because that was news to me.
You're welcome, Jens. I think you owe me $5.
I think I owe you more than this.
Yeah. You know what? I think next time I drop by your city, you can just invite me for a board game session.
If you want, you can have the reflection probe updater that I put on Twitter today.
Hey, dude, that's for free. It's a public domain now. But yeah, I saw it. I just didn't check the code though.
Oh, we can have a look.
Did you use it in Beam?
No. Because we just bake it once in editor.
Oh,
There's no updating reflection probes because that is expensive as hell.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I can quickly open and we have a look because that is actually performance related. So let's have a look at our reflection probe updater. Here we go. And I will disable my camera so you can have a better look. If I find it, that is. It's not a group. That was good. There we go. So, let's maybe go quickly over it. The script will find all reflection probes that are child of the game object that the script is attached to. You can tell how many probes you want to update each cycle that this thing does. Like, let's say you have 12 probes. If you set the probes per cycle to 5, you will update 5, then 2 of the first batch, and then it starts again with the next 3 on the next one. How often do you want to do this update? And here we are on 0.1 seconds, but you can all the way scale it up to 10 seconds. Should you have more than one reflection probe updater run at the same time, you can set a start offset. So that will be a random value between the min offset and the max offset to just alternate the calls of the reflection probe updater. Next, you have the time slicing mode. If you don't know about this, you should look at the documentation about this. Basically, you can tell Unity to render the probe in 1 frame completely in, I think it was 9 frames and 14 frames. Just different workload. But you can set this for all the probes. And you have a bool for, I don't care about all this, I want to run all probes at the same cycle. Then when we collect the probes, we will just apply our settings to the probe, and then we invoke repeat our update cycle. We have to do with invoke repeat and not open a second thread because we have to render it on the main thread, sadly. But yeah, still, then we just do a little bit math on what probes we want to do. And we save what render ID it was when we rendered the probe, so we can compare. If we ask a probe, hey, by the way, are you already finished rendering? If not, then skip the probe. Yeah, and that is the script. So basically, you can update your probes, not all at the same time, and distribute the workload over multiple frames for multiple probes.
This is pure wisdom, gents. Did you use it for 500 probes? Really?
I just needed to an upper limit for the range, so.
Okay, so how many did you use it for?
I tested it with, I think it was 100 probes, and a cycle size of like 10 per cycle. And then every second it starts with rendering 10 probes. And then a second later, then the next 10 probes, and so on and so on.
That's pure gold, man. I guess your audience knows what the reflection probe is, just to make sure.
If we should explain it, just ask in the chat for reflection probes. Same goes for your audience.
I have no audience. I don't know. Let me check. No questions. All good. We can continue. So this script comes out of experience, right? Out of your experience needing to render so many reflection probes.
First, I refactored it a little bit for the tip because old code and stuff. So I first used this for a VR project in 2016, I think, where we needed to upgrade the reflection probes because we had a day-night cycle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
talking about night cycles or time of day, right? Changes.
Yeah.
I've seen some solutions where they bake one scenario and one light map, and they bake the same scenario during the night in another light map, and they just blend between them But of course, I guess that's it's a rather complex pipeline. I'm not sure how good it can look. But have you played around with that idea or something? If you know what I mean.
No, because the requirements of that particular project were like, okay, we want a as realistic as possible impression, because that was an industry project for a company that builds houses, and they wanted to show their customers the houses in VR.
Architecture. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Unity for architecture. Way.
Well, I did actually quite a lot of things for architectural stuff with Unity. That works. It works.
Yeah, there are a lot of enterprise clients for this, right? For visualization, even for movies in Unity and such.
Yeah.
There have been made some movies where they do everything in real time, kinda, right? Which is quite handy, I guess.
We did a
a
previous solution for a movie studio once, where the director just wanted a rough impression of where stuff will be. So we took the camera stuff and made a very cheap chroma key filter and put in the game objects, and just a low resolution previs render on set, and that worked actually good.
Smart.
Yeah, because actually the chroma key filter, that is just like, I think 3 lines of shader code, something like this. It's really really easy to do.
3 lines. Jesus. 3 lines is not too much, unless of course you removed all the new lines, right? That's not a lot of fun.
And also remove all the bottle, the boilerplate for Unity shaders. But yeah, the code that actually does something, it's just three commands or something. Yeah.
Nice. So
Okay.
there you have, coming back to the topic.
Yeah.
This small field can save you maybe half a millisecond, 1 millisecond, which is quite substantial in terms of optimization.
Yeah, that was a really, really, really cool tip. I maybe will steal it for next week's Unity tip.
Make sure to mention my channel if you do.
Sure. Well, it's hard sometimes to come up with new tips, you know.
Yeah. Did you know that you can say hello world in Unity by using debugger? Unity tip.
Wow. You know, it's totally useless, but millions of people will like this exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would focus on normally in terms of optimization. Always to start with these easy solutions. I mean, makes more sense to start with easy stuff first. That gives you the biggest gains than the other way around.
Yeah.
And that's one point where I see most developers fall into, by mistake, of course. No one does this on purpose. But if you, I don't know, if you end up spending, I don't know, weeks in optimizing one script that takes 2 milliseconds, while you actually need to optimize like 10 milliseconds, then that's probably not the biggest bang for the buck, right? So it's always important to see the meta game or to see the high-level picture first before you start optimizing anything.
What I especially like about your tip right now was that it was instant gain for all levels, not something specifically we did for just one point in the game, but it affects everything. So we gain some performance even for other parts.
Yes, you might have gained as well some bugs, so yeah, need to test it. But
we need to test it, sure, yeah.
I only had problems with it once, which is because I was using photon networking for one of the games. And I think disabling the autosync transforms caused some problems with the synchronization in one edge case. But it took me like 2 days to figure out it was because of that checkbox, right? Because when you have a huge gameplay area, and sometimes worse, if it's procedural, that means that you generate the content in real time. To find issues like this, it's just not practical, right? You can maybe run into this 1 year after you tick that checkbox if you're unlucky. But yeah, in my case, it was only 2 days that it took me to realize it was the issue. And then yet you can still synchronize the transform manually through an API call if you need it. So there's always solutions for everything.
It's a very, very good start. Do we have time for another one? Another tip, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I have time for one more. So we can go back to the profiler. I think you still should have it from the other scene. The data. Let's see if we are lucky.
The data is not, but we can run it again. It's no problem. The beginning part was also, it's still there. Okay.
Yeah, it is our lucky day. By the way, James, do you remember that thing that Google did? That there was like a second button that said it is my lucky day or something? What? Did you see that in the past? Like I'm talking about 20 years ago or something like this, or 15 years ago?
No, not really.
Okay, that's super weird. So yeah, Google had this kind of thing where it said like, you could just type whatever you wanted to search, and it's like first button is, search for the same, and the second button, I think it was like, it is my lucky day, which brought you directly to the first result. They removed it, but yeah, wondering about this shit.
Well, the first result is now always
profiler.
Sponsored stuff.
Yeah, it is always ads or something different.
So, need more fuel, in my case tea. Tuesdays is also the day where I do the Unity course for the University of Koblenz, so I have a lot of talking in a really compressed amount of time, so I need to need to drink.
Tea helps, right? I have here just coffee and water, but coffee tends to make my throat a bit dry. So if I have to speak, I try to avoid drinking coffee. Maybe it's just me. Maybe my throat is weird.
Okay, we are back in the profiler. So do you want
we
to?
have two sections,
Yeah.
left and right. The Unity editor separates them. I guess it's because it's doing some intermediate work in between, and it doesn't want to bother you much with the details, so that's good. On the left side, we have scripts, and on the right side, we have the rendering part. And then, I would normally see where to make the gains first. On the right side, we have... Actually, I'm going to stop saying right side. It doesn't really matter. On the rendering side, we have about 12.50 milliseconds, and on the left side we have about 7 milliseconds. I can't read it.
This is from 20 milliseconds right here, if you can see the cursor, to 32.5, so 12.5 milliseconds. And the scripts like are 9. Just up to 9 milliseconds.
Yeah, so somewhere you have to make the gains, right? And for this reason, you need to think about, should I make it in? Should I make the gains in rendering? On the CPU side, of course, we are checking the central processing unit in this profile. Or will it be easier to make these gains on the left side, right? Which is usually, in this case, scripting and physics mostly, right? And for that, you need to know your game, right? How easy is it to optimize draw calls, or how easy is it to optimize your scripts?
That is a very good question. The immediate advantage would be in fixing scripts would be to have it in all the game. Also, this is the thing where a lot of stuff can break. But I would say, just judging from the time we spent in the two-player loops, like 8.89 milliseconds and 12.7 milliseconds, that the graphic part is more expensive right now.
Yeah, it is more expensive, and we are at about 20 milliseconds, which means that you can reach, let's say, 50 FPS, right? We need to know first your target. I think it might be 60 FPS. Yeah. And this gives you a budget of, I was mess up with this. I think it's 16 milliseconds, right? About 16 milliseconds. Yeah.
Well,
16
you
milliseconds.
let's calculate. It's 1,000 1,000 milliseconds per second, of course, and we divide this by, we want to have 60 frames, and then we are at 16 2/3 milliseconds. So you were exactly right.
So that means that you have to go from 20, more or less. We're always talking averages here, and just one frame to simplify things. We would need to shave off about, let's say, 6 milliseconds to give some room. And in the longer term, you might need to shave off even like 7 or 8 milliseconds, because this is just one scene. You might have more areas where you need further optimization. So my goal in this case will be that, to optimize, thinking about 8 milliseconds.
Mhm.
Which means that, you have 12 or let's say 13 milliseconds in rendering. I would try to shave off 5 milliseconds out of that, and maybe 3 milliseconds from the scripts in the longer game, okay? Like in the long term. Those would be my goals. And then I will ask myself, how can I reach that, or how can I help you reach that, right? So maybe that means that you would need to reduce draw calls by 30%, just as an approximation, right? To remove overhead from the rendering part, and maybe another 30% from your scripts. And, this is the way that I think about optimization, right? Trying to see where the end goal is and how to get there. Like, how can you make 30% of the draw calls gone? It is quite time consuming, I have to say, because even if I wanted to give you an answer on the draw calls, for example, I would need to analyze the scene, see if there is some potential gains by, I don't know, techniques like atlasing, or, how to batch for objects and all of this. You have sometimes to go draw call by draw call, so it takes quite a bit of time. But what you find usually is that the things that you find for optimization in one part can sometimes translate to other scenes and levels as well, if you're lucky.
I saw quite some results when looking into occlusion, because I noticed last time we were together in a stream that the Pro Builder planes actually don't cull correct. So, or better say, they don't occlude correct. But we spent, like, the last 3 streams we spent with occlusion culling, so maybe we can look at another topic that is easily reachable to show it off. Also, occlusion culling, they will for sure see next week again, because we still have quite some levels to go through to. Or do you think your audience would like to see some occlusion culling things?
I think we had enough occlusion culling for a while, at least for 2021. Maybe next year we can talk again about occlusion culling.
And the next game we do then.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for optimizing the rendering part, I will probably have a look at the frame debugger and see how the scene is constructed.
Okay. The frame debugger we will find also in Analysis, if I am not wrong. Here is it.
Yeah, and you have to have the scene view and the game view both open at the same time, unless they fix this issue.
Let's try if they fixed it. I would just hit play. And now I cannot use the editor. Yeah, we are starting. I'm not very familiar with the frame debugger. I remember that last time with the frame debugger we found the problems. So there we have it.
Yeah, so you can click there, for example, in any of these. Exactly, and then you can use the keyboard and just press, just going through the list, pressing down, the down arrow, and then you see how the scene is built, right?
Yeah, and we see actually a lot of pipes being drawn behind that wall.
Yeah. So what we would be looking here for would be, can I draw all of this or as many things as I can in just one go, right? That is the idea behind batching.
Yeah, I see a problem. This draw mesh that is a lit ceiling lamp, and it seems that this is not set to static. Let's look in the inspector. It is set to static. Why it's not a static batch? That's
Tells you the
interesting.
reason for this, which is objects have different materials. You see that on the right side of the frame debugger?
Yeah.
It might be that some parameters change across these 3 draw calls.
Ah, you know what? I think I know. Maybe it's our flickering lights, and the flickering lights, of course, change the emission value. Okay.
So yeah, I would just go over the list like very quickly
Yeah.
to see,
I
you
will
know, in
show
general how
this.
it looks. Yeah, like super fast, exactly. And ideally we should draw everything in one draw call, but that's of course impossible. But I will try to get quickly into that goal, right?
Rendering light. Shadow batches.
Wait, you have dynamic shadows? Yeah. Okay, but it's 40 draw calls.
Yeah, just where it looks good, you know? We try to skip shadows, but sometimes it just looks better.
Especially for the ball, right? And dynamic stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can also bake the shadows for the static elements.
For the ball, and sometimes we have this fire particle effects, and within this we have a point light that has a dancing light script on it that moves it. So we have like flickering flames, and of course they really, really look good when they have dancing shadows.
Yeah. Or exceptions like that, of course. But usually, for example, if you're targeting mobile games, that dynamic shadows are not something that you will see very often. Unless, of course, you are drawing just a cube. Then you can afford it.
Yeah, but I guess the most light sources even are set to no shadow.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I would check where the draw calls are coming from, right? Maybe it is not shadows, or if it's only 40, I wouldn't care too much about it.
No, the most ones are opaque geometry with 1100.
Okay. Sorry, I don't see the 1100.
Oh, wait, I can show you. We have, in total, we have in this frame 1200 draw calls, right?
Yeah. So that is exactly all about the opaque geometry.
Yes, and most of them are in here. So this one, the deferred G buffer only has, we can, I think, leave this. There we have 1000 in deferred lighting.
Okay. So we could just maybe close the shadow part.
What am I rendering here? Hidden stencil. Ah, that is a fan. Why are you jumping?
Yeah. That's Unity.
Yeah, my arrow key takes the frames and this at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you can close the shadow map below. It's only 30 draw calls and it's making a lot of noise. Yeah.
This one too.
Yeah, so it looks like there is a lot of shadows for some reason. Maybe you're having some like different lights casting shadows. So I
Yeah.
would.
So we need to look into the shadows. Yeah, it's actually a lot of shadows. Here we have just meshes. Ah, this jumping
Yeah.
is really annoying. It was not where I was. I closed
So yeah,
all
I would
this.
for this I would just check the scene hierarchy at some point. Check
Yeah.
the lights, make an inventory as I call it.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
see who's actually rendering shadows. I'm not sure you need many lights to have that on. Maybe you can just turn off most of the lights, keep the main 2 or 3 lights there casting shadows, and that could also be a huge improvement. Maybe you can shave off 200, 300, 400 roll calls, which is the 30% we talked about before.
Yes, exactly. So let's have a look here. Where do we have shadows? We have definitely shadows here. The question is, this makes no shadows, and this makes the shadow. But without shadows, this just looks shit.
Yeah, I think what you can do or try to do as well is to bake the shadows. Yeah, it's also a complex topic because for some parts I would be happy to bake the shadows for
Yeah.
the scene, for example, and such. But
I
for the
think
other, like
especially
for
for
the
this, if we could do it for sections, sure. Then bake the shadows here for sure. Yeah. Here we have dancing lights, exactly. We have a fire here. I think this one is, yeah, exactly. And this light is has the firelight movement script on it, and yes, it throws hard shadows. So this cannot be baked. So how would you make the distinction?
well, first I would go to a hierarchy and type T not semi, like T colon and then light. And then just have a quick look at the inspector as I check through the shadows to have a look, to see if there's like a lot of lights casting shadows.
What is colon again for?
Like the 2 dots.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then I would just check the inspector at the same time. And maybe, is it possible to show it in the screen?
Yeah, sure. I will put the inspector in.
And here we have the shadow type. Exactly, like no shadow for this light. I would just go from top to bottom, like quickly with the keys, right?
Yeah, we have hard. No. Oh, there's a soft shadow. We could change to a hard shadow. No, 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 no. So you see most of them have no shadows. Ah, there's a soft shadow again. Let's actually see what makes a soft shadow. Because I'm just curious. So
the hard shadow is usually either black or white. Which makes it very obvious to see the edges.
can I please see something? Why are you eating my geometry?
Because of the friendly debugger. You still have it on.
I think I closed it somewhere.
It's
not there anymore. Anyway, that light that has a soft shadow is one of the feature of the core elements. Here. I know why there was no thing. I had the occlusion tab open. It's in one of the crystals. So the crystal light here has soft shadows. And I think you cannot even see this. No shadow. Yeah, you see a little bit here. But really, that is not really important. Let's try to see the difference again. Let's go closer to the wall. And we go to soft shadows again. Yeah, we have here a little bit. Oh, wow. Lami with the rate of 35 people. Hello, guys. We are in the dry and hopefully not so boring part of going over shadow baking with our special guest, the Gamedev guru, and or Ruben. We can say Ruben, I think. And if you want to check out his content, please, guys, have a look at his channel on YouTube. He makes very cool stuff about Unity and performance. Thanks for the follow. Oh my god, I am so bad at pronouncing names. Chi-chan the AI. Then thanks for the follow. Not boring at all. That is nice to hear. Welcome all. Sit down, have a drink with us. Welcome to Stream Tavern.
Could actually use a drink. Like,
yes, exactly.
not necessarily alcoholic, but
cheers.
something nice, juicy.
Yeah, I was correct in pronouncing the name, so I'm a little bit proud of myself. Anyway, welcome to the stream. We were just finding, by using the frame debugger that Ruben gave us an introduction to, we were finding that we have quite a lot of lights that use soft shadows, which are, of course, a little bit expensive. And we just try to see if that really is a big difference in how the game would look. And we just see it is on our light crystals. Here we have the point light, and we can see on this wall the effect of the shadow. Right now, soft shadow is on. Let's go to no shadow, and yeah, we see a little bit of the glow. But actually, let's see it from where a player would see it. That would be something like this. And let's go again to soft shadows. Yeah, very subtle. I think we can skip this. Because this would be on all our light beams.
Does it even have to be a real-time light? Just wondering.
Does this have to be a real-time light?
Also, maybe just make it baked.
I'm not really quite sure how to differentiate or how to tell the baker which lights to take and which. Yes, of course, I would change the mode to bake where it's real time.
Yeah.
So let me see.
But let's not do it because you need to bake lighting and that takes a while.
Yeah. Just for myself. Let's goodbye, Chris. Thank you for tuning in. I guess you're right, and we should bake all the crystal lights. But to have an immediate gain from this, we will open the prefab. Oh, I hope I don't break something with this. But we would open the prefab and apply on the right light we have here is no shadows, but I will show the inspector again for everyone. So here I am in the inspector and I am in the prefab of this. Why is there a wall in my prefab scene? What? Okay, that is weird. Why is there a wall in my prefab scene? Cannot select it. I think the Unity is a little bit bugged. Okay. So the light glow has no shadows. The hit effect is the particle system. The hit area effect is another particle system. And there is the light glow with the soft shadows. So we would go to no shadows in this and save the prefab. Oh, a lot of prefabs get updated because that was also in pre-made room sections.
Whereas it will be done by tomorrow.
Yeah. And actually, that was a bounce beam. Let's check the block beam. We have the same structure. So we can find the light glow, and this one has no shadows, so it was just a red beam. Check the other light. No shadows. Okay. So that already points to someone at some point made a mistake. The gravity
Easy to fix.
The gravity beam, and we can just check the light glow on this, and we have no shadows on the gravity beam, so that's also no problem. So the let's click the nice select button to find all my beams. The power beam, open the prefab, and it is always there. No shadows on the power beam. So all we did not check was the sticky beam. And the sticky, it's always on the tip. No shadows. So it was actually just the one of our 5 light beams was broken with the wrong shadow setting. I would never have found that. I owe you another $5.
No worries, man. You can also just invite me for a board games session one of these days.
Yeah, sure. Do you play Warhammer by any chance?
No, I mean I'm really personally into the books itself. Like for example, Gaunt's Ghosts. I really think that they're very well written. I like them a lot.
I
the lore,
read them all.
I think it's
yeah.
amazing. The lore is amazing as well.
It
in my
is.
opinion. The games not so much. Sorry, I don't play. That's what I wanted to say.
Right now, I'm working my way through the Horus Heresy, and this is like
the books, right?
the books. Yeah, it's like I don't know, 60 something.
Yeah.
I am on book 9, I guess, or 9 or 10.
And you got your wife to read anything? Because I gave my girlfriend one of the books, like the first book of the Gaunt Ghosts, and she was like, "Why did you give me this?"
yeah, no. I tried, but no. Which does not mean that there are not people or that would enjoy this, but my wife is not one of them. So I want to actually quickly check the functionality, or if we broke the bounce beams. So another cool thing we coded into is when I select a plane change here and I hit play, a magic button will appear in my editor that allows me to teleport to the selected object. So teleport marble, and there I am. Which is really nice when you have to test things. And, you know, a speedrunner can actually make some sort of magic jump here and jump on this, where I have just to cheat, because I don't know how they do it. I really don't understand. It should not be possible.
It's not your job to be a speedrunner. That's why we have these cheats.
So this actually still works. Oh. Did I fall just through this, or was it my fault? Let's...
Shadows shouldn't really change much in that regard. So you should be safe.
We had problems with these beams that because they can mirror. So you place a beam, and if it hits a reflective surface, it can mirror. And to not do this by hand, we have code that runs an editor to place beam segments, so little line renderers that do the reflection part. And fiddling with the prefabs, we had a long time, we had the problem that there would be some dead segments suddenly in the beam crystal. Yeah. But when I look here, there is a segment count, and you see the plus, so it added this to the prefab. Oh, which is okay. This is just the first segment until it hits this wall. Everything good. And this segment 0, that we found that in the prefabs. Because when you open the prefab scene, the same code would run. Yeah? And because for Unity, it's a scene. So the same code would run, and we would have one segment that was suddenly in the prefabs. You know what I mean?
It's the classic, yeah. The classic.
Yeah. Well, basically, you place the crystal, and our scripts will do the rest. It will place the first light. It will place the first segment. With the trigger, with the effects. When you put fog in it, it will place a second point light at the zone where you hit the wall. Depending on the hit normal, it will place the particle effects there. Yeah, all this, so the artists don't have to think about this. And when
Nice
you
productivity boost.
and if you actually select this and you look at this point light here, and I rotate the beam, you will see.
Nice.
If I hit something, that is there, you see the point light. See how it depend
Very
on
cool.
the reflection of the contact normal. It will place
Yeah,
itself.
change the transform of the particles.
Yeah.
I think the artists will love you for this kind of stuff. Quality of life improvement,
Yeah.
they say.
We have a lot of stuff like this that helps building this stuff, because this takes a long time to build this. Yeah, another cool thing we found. So I should have more interviews with you, like every week.
Talking
there is
more interviews.
another setting. Maybe that's interesting for you to see. Let me show you the inspector actually. So this is the control script. Especially with the prefab settings, don't touch. We have a little thing here, and this is also something we can check. That is update dynamic. The update dynamic will, when you move the light beam, will do exactly what we just saw. So I will rotate it, and it will adjust the light beam up to its length. So if I have it like this and I rotate it, it will actually move. That allows you to do this with a light beam on a platform or some rotating objects or something. But this means that the object will cast there is an update rate somewhere. Here is the dynamic update rate. Every 4 frames, it will check if it was moved or not. So you can make the update rate here, but also beams that should not move should not be update dynamic. So that is also something I try to teach the artists to look for when they build the levels, but as you see, a lot of the times, here as well, they forget it. Because it's easier to place it with update dynamic on, because you see the immediate effect.
Never trust an artist, Jens. Or trust, but very fine.
Yeah, so I guess there is another thing I can do for this level to take all the here's another one. To take all the dynamics out. That will improve the performance. Well, it is just a raycast every 4 frames. But for each crystal, it all adds up, you know.
It adds up to 1 million raycasts per frame.
Depending on the level, yeah.
Alright, Jens, I hope this was useful for you and your game. Let me know how that goes. I slowly need to drop off. Need to drive home first.
Yeah, thank you for stopping by. It was very nice and very educational. And that is a good possibility. It's my cue to post again the link to your YouTube stream into the chat, so people can follow you on YouTube if they are interested in lots of cool tips about performance. And we will try to look into what you told us, to the pointers, when we continue on the game dev of Beam and all further games we do on this channel. So thank you.
Enjoy. Good luck with that. I'm sure that you can still shave off these 5 milliseconds that you need to make all your players happy.
Especially the speedrunners, they depend on the good frame rate.
Oh yeah. Otherwise, I guess the tricks stop working, right? If it's not predictable, yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, so one other thing I wanted to share was your website, because if you by any chance make a game, then you should think about contacting him and hire him to look into your projects. So here's a website, you can reach Ruben there. I guess that's a good point to reach you.
That's good. Thanks, Jens.
Sure. And thanks again, and have a nice evening.
You too. Have fun with the rest of the stream.
I will. Thanks. Bye bye.